Ba-boom, ba-boom. Ba-boom, ba-boom. Ba-boom, ba-boom. Ba-daddle-did-do-boo. Wait. Hello? Oh, there you are. Can you hear me? Wait. I can't hear you. Hello? No, I can't hear you. Are you muted? Oh, I still can't hear you. What's going on here? Is my audio bad? Sometimes my audio goes bad. Let me just check my audio really quickly to see if it's working.
This video is looking at.
Yep, it's working. I'm not sure. I still can't hear you. I'm not sure why.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
I don't know what happened there. Like
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Usually I jump in and it works fine. So sorry about that. I don't know what happened, to be honest. But
Oh no, it's okay. That's
it's
technology.
Cool. The joys of the interweb.
Right. Okay, so how's it going, man? I see it's nighttime there in Ireland. So do you and the entire Broncos Europe crew, do you guys all live in the same vicinity of Ireland?
There's a few guys in like the mainland of the UK, so like England and Wales and stuff. But me and Colin both live on the island of Ireland. Now, yeah, there is an interesting concept there. I live in the north and he lives in the south. So the north is part of the UK, obviously.
Right.
Well, I mean, geographically, without trying to upset anybody with saying that, but yes.
Okay.
So
does that upset people?
I don't think it upsets people of our age group.
Right.
I would see it as Ireland, okay, but like I've got plenty of friends that would see it as the United Kingdom. I try very much to stay in the middle of that argument, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. It's very much like Hannah Montana, best of both worlds now. Like, so I get like an Irish passport. Yeah. I can do whatever I want in that sense, and then you've got people that can obviously have a British passport. Yeah, it's fine. I'm not really sure what your knowledge or background is to all of that sort of stuff, but it's pretty mental. Like, I mean, the whole like, there's stuff I see every week, and I'm like, hold on, did that actually happen here? Like 20 years ago, you know? It's crazy, like, but it's mental all the same.
Oh, it is. It's the world we live in is crazy. It's totally insane. The things that happen on a daily basis all over the world. Like I've gotten to a point in my life now where, I've seen a couple of presidents, I've seen a couple of disasters. You kind of start to realize that the sum of the average person's life is going to include a few of those really big major things.
Yes.
And so you start to look backwards to try to figure out what's going to happen in the next 10, 15, 20 years. And you think, all right, well, okay, barring any problems with my health or accidents in which I die, beyond my control, I will be witnessing probably some amazing things. So our grandparents got to see the moon landing, right? Mm-hmm. And our parents got to experience us basically exploring galaxies and things, like for real. We got real pictures of those things now. And it wasn't until like 1994 that we actually visibly saw another planet in another solar system. And I don't think people really can put that into context sometimes, that it has not been that long since we've known about this stuff. And yet, at the same time, if you go all the way back to like the Sumerians who lived like, I don't know, like 7,000 years ago or whatever, they've got pictures of all this stuff also. And I think that really freaks people out. And so they're like, you start to realize just how lucky you are that you're going to get to see all those things, both the good and the bad things. I mean, honestly, because, I think the bad things really make you appreciate, the good moments, I think without them, You don't really.
Sorry, I think it's great as well. Just what you said there. Like the fact is, you think right now, like we're sitting here chatting online, right?
Yeah.
You can obviously record this to the cloud, and you can watch it back in 50 years time, or like your kids or my kids can watch it back and go, "What the hell sort of beard is that my father has on it right now at the minute?" It's just crazy because like yeah, like there's stuff going on now that is crazy, but it can all just be accessed. Like obviously, history from 20 or 30 years ago is still accessible, but it's so accessible now in the extent where you look at something like you tweeted 10 years ago and you're like, what the hell was I doing? Do you know? Like,
Yeah.
I do not search my Twitter after this, but yeah, I might have
It's
to have a deep dive.
yeah.
Oh,
I mean, to be honest with you, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of shit that you realize you're like, I cannot believe I fucking did that. I can't believe that I said that. I can't believe that I thought that. And that's the hard thing about the internet is that it is brutal when it comes to that stuff. It is just merciless, you know. I mean, I've been on both ends of it. I'll
mhm.
tell you, like being the media ire of an entire city is not fun. Like
Yeah,
it's not enjoyable. But you look back on some of the things that you say to other people, especially online, when you were less mature and you viewed things differently about the world, and you think, maybe I just give people a little bit longer leash.
did you see what happened? Did you see what happened to soccer player last week? No.
Which one?
A guy called Ian Wright. Now, I don't know if Colin brought this up. He is in his mid to late 40s, and he would have been very famous maybe back 10, 15 years ago. He's still quite famous now. He presents like a highlight show for soccer over here. And a guy who is no older than 14 in Ireland tweeted him an extremely racist thing, which is obviously awful, and it's disgusting all the same.
Hmm.
But he screenshotted that and put it up on Twitter, and it went viral last week. And that way, and do you know what? I would probably do the same. But you're talking about like like what the hell did I that young lad's life is his family's life is ruined just from one thing he posted online. Oh my, it's I will send you it after. It's actually shocking to be honest. But
Yeah.
that made big headlines over here last week, and I couldn't believe because he's really young. But it's horrible. But people can just log online now and like yeah, like trolls and stuff. And I'm sure like obviously you work in media and you've seen that on a daily basis. I'm lucky where like we might get one comment a month on like YouTube, like you fat bastard or something like that there, or like
You
something
guys are
like
hitting it big, though. I think the show's doing really well. I think you guys' viewership. I think over the course of, especially the last few months, I feel like you guys have kind of hit a boost.
man, I appreciate that. I'll be honest, and I said it to a guy that works with a team the other day. All it took was a global pandemic, for people to sit down and I'm only joking. Oh come on,
Yeah.
it's cool. Like it's a bit crazy because my dad was like, "What the hell is all this?" Like a couple of years ago, and
Yeah.
I went to a game at Wembley there in November, and all these people started to come up to me, and I was like, "Oh my god!" Like leave me alone. And my dad was like laughing, but it's pretty cool. Like I'm just doing it for a laugh, It's something. And do you know what? Now it really is something just to sort of keep myself occupied because it's hard to believe. It's like what for us anyway. We've been on I mean, I think me and Colin's been in the same lockdown for the same amount of time. But you're talking around St Patrick's Day, so
Mhm.
it's near. Yeah, it's 2 months yesterday. So
Yeah.
it's insane. It's hard
Right.
to believe we've been sitting doing nothing for 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, if life was normal and you sat in your house for 8 weeks and didn't leave the house, I think it would be cuckoo time.
It would, yeah. What's weird is that I had already kind of transitioned into doing a lot of stuff with my startup, which was a lot of stay at home, work from home type stuff. So obviously the quarantine hadn't happened already, but I was already in my house, most of the day. So I had already kind of like gone through the cycle of stir crazy. And then you come back around, you're like, all right, I can go outside still. And now it's like the pandemic. I saw people go through the same like stress that I had gone through by myself.
Mhm.
And it takes a toll on you for sure. But I will say you can definitely stay inside a lot longer than you think.
think I actually, funnily enough, would be the sort of guy where it's like, yeah, I could stay inside all weekend and just have a few. I call them scoops.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, just a few scoops. If you think about it here, big football, big soccer fan. I've got Saturday morning. Football starts at 12. I'm going to call it football, but football starts at 12 o'clock, man, and that rolls right on through 7 o'clock in the evening, and then boom, you got college football, and
yeah.
the next thing you know, it's 4 o'clock in the morning, and then you got Sunday, 12 o'clock, same time,
Yep.
rolls around, and then boom, red zone. The next thing you know, you're eating your second dinner of the night. Sunday night football is just over, and you got work in 3.5 hours. I've done it before. I mean, but I'm quite fortunate here. Obviously, you can't see out my window now, but I live on the outskirts of a town, and there's literally like a golf club up there, and everybody's using it like a public park. It's really funny. So I would walk up there like maybe once or twice a day at the moment. So ironically, I'm probably getting more exercise now than I would have done before. And I guess if we're going to talk about the pros and cons of lockdown, I have a car which has 16,000 miles a year on it, like maximum mileage, and you know, I'm saving a lot of miles this time, so it's all good in that sense. It's
It's
crazy.
funny. I love that cycle, that Friday to Monday cycle during football. Oh my God. You just described, I started reminiscing a little bit in my head when you were talking about, it's like, man, those were my weekends for like 6 straight years. I would do a show Saturday morning. It would either be
Yeah.
college game day or it would be just me talking about stuff. And then I would do red zone style coverage of college football all Saturday, all the way until the games were over.
Oh my god.
Um, I did that nationally for Learfield for a year, and then I did it just in Kansas City for 4 years. And then on Sundays, I didn't travel with the team, so when the team was away, when the Chiefs were on the road, I would do NFL red zone stuff minus the Chiefs pre and post game shows, which I would produce and then report on the pregame show, and then I would host the post game show. And then the rest of the time, I just did NFL red zone coverage on the radio. And so it was for 5 straight years. You just described like watching that. It was like I would have 7 screens of football games up in the radio studio while I was watching all that. It was the most intense surge of football information that you could possibly get. I do not know if somebody could overload themselves. I was like super saturated sugar. I was like a super saturated solution of football. I've
How
seen
did you
football
do
nirvana.
that?
I know it's amazing. Like people who have witnessed it, and then you realize, like you said, you've been inside for like 36 hours. You haven't seen sunlight.
I think you get to about maybe. The thing is, like, my wife is maybe sitting. So it starts at 6 o'clock over here, the NFL on the Sunday,
Yeah.
and it obviously goes through to 4 in the morning. She would sit down week one and be like, right, this is on the TV for the next whatever. By week 10, she's like, seriously, like, get another TV. So I've had to do that. Yeah, like I don't know. Do you like any other sports, TJ, or you just mainly football? Or
Yeah, for sure football, but I was actually a huge college basketball fan as a kid, so I loved college basketball. And I remember when I was a kid, the very first exposure I had to NBA basketball at all was the very first Utah Jazz Chicago Bulls finals. So I didn't even know NBA basketball existed before that. And then, so that was like my very first introduction to it. And it was because I was staying with my cousin in Ohio, and he was a really big Bulls fan. So we watched the finals together, and I was like, I love this. I love hockey too because it's so much fun to watch. I'm not good with the names. The names throw me off. It's a lot of names that ends in X's that you can't pronounce, and so it's hard for me to remember Russian letters. Sorry,
yes,
it's just
no, don't. It's always, you're not offending me, man. I'll say this. So, like, obviously, my surname is McQuaid, and anybody watching this, I'm not going to Google it now, but the only guy with McQuaid in his surname in professional sports. I don't know if he plays for them now, but he played for the Bruins for 4 or 5 years. I was so tempted, man, to buy a jersey like McQuaid in the back. It's either that or watching 21 Jump Street when they've got the same surname as me in the and the cop characters. Um, I don't know, man. I guess my first foray into American sports was basketball, but never like a serious never a serious fan to an extent. It's been more football, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, over here, bread and butter, football, soccer. Like I obviously
Who do you root for?
Manchester United. So
Right here, me too. I love Manchester United.
man, do you know do you know who owns them?
Do I know who owns them? The freaking
No,
Blazers, who own
I
the
think
Bucks.
yeah, yes. So it's not a good time at the moment for fans. I don't know. I mean, talking
Ever
about
since Sir
lockdown,
Alex Ferguson left, it's been no bueno.
it's been no bueno indeed, man. I actually remember that morning. I was in college and I was out the night before, and somebody texted me saying he was gonna. I was like, no, he's not. I was hung over as shit, man, and it wasn't a good day.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah. It hasn't been the same. Do you know what? It's football or soccer is not the same as it was back whenever I was growing up. Like I'm talking like 10, 15 years ago. Me and my dad would watch it. It's not the same. I think since money came into it, and not to be a prick, but since it sort of went global, it's just obviously more money's come in. It's not been the same. It is great though to see it grow in the States. I think it's. I was laughing my head off on Saturday when people were tweeting about the Bundesliga. I was actually in stitches laughing. I was tweeting the guys at DNVR slagging them, saying, "Why haven't you got me on to talk about betting and gambling about soccer? No one's gonna bring me on." So I don't know. Like, why not? Like, I'm here, man. I'm telling you, like, this was in a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
There is no way in hell that the NFL is going to work this year with empty crowds because, or like an empty stadium. Because I was watching a game yesterday, and it was just like, if I don't pay attention to this, I'm gonna just literally like miss what's happening. I missed
Yeah.
2 goals on Saturday just from sitting on my phone.
Oh, it's the worst. I know exactly what you're talking about. Oh, I fucking hate it. It's the worst when I miss a play that touchdowns. I miss so many touchdowns. And that's why the red zone is helpful because I know they're going to show me all the stuff. So it's you don't miss as much with that, but seeing it live, that's why the preservation of sports in person. Like we have to figure out a way to get back there because I think it was Adam Jacobowitz from 5 Points Vids. We were talking about this. He and I love stadiums. We were
Okay.
kind of stadium nerds. And so he does a lot of videos on YouTube about stadiums, and they're fantastic. If you haven't subscribed to his channel, 5 Points Vids, he's got like 200,000 subscribers now. I don't want to shortchange him, but he's doing really well. He and I were like we were talking about the unique feeling that you get when you don't premeditate an act, but then everybody knows what to do when you score and then it happens. And being a part of that is unique. It's an ineffable feeling, it's indelible. Once you feel it, it's something, it never goes away. And, I think that's like one of the big parts of live sports that social media and the television product that the NFL puts out, which is really good. And guess what? I mean, the soccer product is fucking amazing. People who don't watch soccer on television. I mean, if you're just playing it on FIFA and you get this like, bird's eye view of the game, like, you're missing a lot of stuff, that goes on out there.
The coverage on NBC at the minute is that good that I'm pirating it off somebody's Sling account. Don't know whose it is. That's a different story for a different day. Their coverage is better than the coverage that we get here, I think, which says a lot. But yeah, I mean, I know we're still in May here, and I know it is maybe like the radio, like stop talking about this conversation, man, but there's no way it works with no people in the stadiums. No way, especially with the NFL.
Yeah.
Stop, start, stop, start, stop, start.
Yeah.
And I just can't see it happening. But what is lockdown like at the minute? Because I'm seeing guys on Twitter, I'm not going to name them, out in the park drinking and having fun in Colorado. So what's going on over there at the minute? Like, is it a bit crazy? Or
Colorado's open. I mean, Colorado's open for business, man. America is moving on. And here's the problem with Denver. And I know that a lot of people are going to gristle at this because Denver's an amazing place. But Denver is also a very white place. And so there's a lot of affluence around. I mean, there's some areas that are bad in Denver, but not a lot. There's not a lot of crime. There is a large Hispanic population, but most of it is affluent white people who work in tech and insurance sales. So you've got a lot of six-figure incomes that are just everywhere around here. And those people are not really as affected as minorities, people of color, people in poor neighborhoods. And that's most of Denver. And that's definitely the people who control Denver. So I mean, the fact that Denver was one of the first places, or Colorado was one of the first states to open back up, was not surprising to me. But it's because you got a lot of people who, I mean, they are in a sense fighting to work, but most of the jobs that people have, people aren't losing an enormous amount of jobs in this area.
It's
Just
bad over
because it's
here,
more
man.
affluent. What's that?
It's bad over here. It's bad.
Really?
It's bad. No, I don't know what I'm going to talk about it maybe in the sense of the UK, because technically being in Northern Ireland, I am in the UK jurisdiction. So I guess I can talk about it in two ways. Think of it like this here. I know it's different for you guys because you got different states, but geographically, I technically have a different jurisdiction, 16 miles from this house. So guys that are like, if everything's shut down there, it could be open up here. The UK is bad. There's It has the most deaths outside of the US at the minute. I need to confirm that,
Yeah.
but there's a whole conversation there. I don't think it was taken as seriously over here than it was at the start of March. The Taoiseach, or the Prime Minister in Ireland, came out and was like, "Look, we're going to shut up shop right now." And well, Boris Johnson in the UK, I was like, "Nah, no." And like, I'm a teacher, man, and Monday, I think it was Monday the 16th of March, in the school that I worked in, there was 470 kids in out of 650, and that was at 9 o'clock in the morning. There was 100 left by the end of the day. They were all dropping like flies, and I didn't leave my room the whole day. I was like, this is going. Basically, within 48 hours, the government shut us off and was like, oh my God, we're going to have to close everything down here. They left it too late. Yeah, they're talking as if there's going to be 50,000 dead in the UK by the end of the year. It's awful. But going on what you're talking about, Colorado, and obviously maybe the jobs and stuff like that there. I seen today, like, there's 6,000 jobs gone in a company, in a food company that's going bust. There's basically, the government in the UK are flowing out money to the point where I don't think they've any left in a couple of months. So I don't know
Well,
what's
won't they
going to
just print
happen.
more? Won't they just print more? Can't they do that?
Inflation, isn't it? So if they print more, won't like a price of bread be like £1 million? I don't
Well,
know.
I mean, that's what I was talking with John McCone about the other day. And I don't know if you know who he is, but he's a really interesting thinker over on the other side of the pond from, well, he's over where you are. He's in England. Or well,
Okay.
you're in Ireland, but I don't want to upset anybody.
Oh no, it's fine. But so I didn't realize you had a guy from England on. I must check that out. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah,
What
he's
was
a
what
John
was his
McCone.
opinion on it, man?
Yeah, well, I'm sorry. What were we talking about?
Like UK deaths / lockdown / craziness
um,
/ Boris Johnson or
right. Yeah, I mean, inflation, right? So I basically said, like, look, the government is going to print as much money as they need to get through this. And he said, no, but they are kept in check by inflation. And I said, are they? And I said, look, the Federal Reserve, at least in the United States, the Federal Reserve is run by the banks. And if the banks want America to stay open, then they are going to accept the rating of the currency that fits the model the best. They can break their own rules. I don't think people realize that. They can absolutely break their own rules. Go ahead, do it. Break your own rules. And then it's like, okay, well, if everybody does it to get through this, don't we realize the faultiness of currency in general? And then people realize, oh, wait, that happened in 1975 when that change happened. And we've all just been living in this system in which, okay, currency is
round and
not
round
backed
and
by.
round?
Right, yeah. Currency is no longer backed by anything. It's backed by the U.S. military. That's what it's backed by. So, like, I mean, if we're being completely honest, England could do the same thing. I don't think that the banks in England, the central bank, has to screw over everybody if they don't want to.
It's mad though, because you've got obviously parts of the UK: Wales, England, Scotland, Northern Ireland. England is controlling its own laws, and sort of with Wales as well. So they've got one set of laws. Scotland might as well be a separate country. Like they've got completely different laws to this whole lockdown situation.
Well, how many times have they
And
voted to be a separate country recently and it not happened? It seems like that.
oh man, that's a whole different conversation for a different.
But they are.
Obviously, obviously, as a guy in Ireland in the north, yes, I was sitting up waiting for that to happen. Like, here we go, domino effect. Here we go. But no, it didn't happen. I think now after Brexit, it will happen eventually. But they have their own set of laws. The person in charge of Scotland's like, no, Johnson's an idiot. Like, no. And then today they've introduced like phase one in Northern Ireland. So basically, we're like 2 weeks behind the UK. We're a week behind the Republic of Ireland.
Mhm.
The whole thing is just a joke. They're talking about hairdressers and barbers not being open for 3 months. I can't keep this up, man. This is ridiculous.
You got a mohawk right now.
Yeah, because there's a ball patch there, that's what. But I don't know. It's just weird, but it's funny because like obviously everything that's going on is awful. But my dad would be the sort of guy. He goes to work, he comes home, he would fly over to a few soccer games in London, and that's his life. For the last 8 weeks, he's been working at home remotely, and I think his head's about to like just. It's funny, but I don't know, man. It's bad. Like it's bad in England. I'm not going to lie. There's a lot of people dying in England, but basically, I remember sitting in February watching the news, and they had a hospital in Italy on, and it had all the coffins, and I was like, "This is horrible."
Right.
And it turns out now there's like 10,000 more people dead in the UK than there is in Italy. So I think it just speaks volumes. They had warnings. Do I think people should be held accountable? And this is not me taking sides, whether I'm Irish or yeah, I think Johnson should be tried for genocide or something. I think he does not care. He wants people back at work. He doesn't care if people are going to die or not. And I actually, I think it's incredible because he's come out, he's had the virus, and he's now amazingly well, because I know people that have had it and they're floored 6 weeks later. So I don't understand how he could have a serious, and it's to the point where it said in the paper last week that he was on death's door, and they were preparing for his death. And this man now is miraculously recovered. Obviously, it's great that he's recovered. If he had it, that's obviously it's great that like, you don't want anybody getting the virus, but the whole thing has been held to
So has that been like a slow transition for him between going? Because I remember he seemed like it had scared the shit out of him when he first took the podium after getting out of the hospital.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that guy has never said anything serious in his life. And now he's like, this is serious. And you could see it on his face. What happened? Like how did that happen?
I think, well, there's a video going around at the start of February. There's a very popular show on here in the morning across the whole of the UK and Ireland called This Morning. Now, I don't know what you can compare it to in the US, but like The View. So it's not like a talk show sort of show or whatever. But he was on it, and he said at the start of February, look, what was he said? It went viral. He said maybe it's good just to let the disease. And he was going like this, move through the population, and just let it take its. And then 2 weeks later, he was standing at Downing Street and was like, what did he say? He said that he was in hospital. He was in hospitals and he was shaking the hands of patients. And I thought to myself, is this guy actually a moron? Like why is he going around doing that for a start? The same week, they closed all the schools in the Republic of Ireland. So I was getting really pissed off. Like, why can't like everybody be like off work 20 minutes down the road, and I'm sitting having to go to school, and there's like a 16-year-old kid came into my room at the end of February, up to me and went like I got there. I nearly decked him. I was like, what are you doing? Like,
yeah.
And that was obviously before the whole thing went south, but there's so much. I think a lot of stuff's going to come out of this year. But yeah, like I know it's bad enough with Boris Johnson, but I'm just happy that your man has been keeping us all laughing for a few weeks now, with the bleach and all that sort of stuff.
That's astonishing. It really is. I don't know how we're going to remember this point in history. I really don't.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I remember when tell me if I'm wrong about this. Like, okay, so you're a teacher. There is a level of austerity and seriousness to history,
Yeah.
right? And I, you have to respect some of the atrocities that happened and our apathy towards them and learn from them in some way. And I feel like we really haven't. In fact, we've gotten much more complacent than I think even maybe we were before World War II. But certainly, I think we're like, this definitely got us caught napping, but this wasn't at that level of atrocity. But I
Yeah.
just remember, I just think like, all of these things that had happened, all of these terrible things, even in the case of 9/11, which is fairly recent, it's a serious thing. And I just look at history over the last 4 years and I'm like, what is this? Is like a joke, you know? It's there's not strong, determined, willful people doing amazing things to try to fight off the forces of evil or something like that. There's nothing that's not happening. We've got clowns running governments. We've got, I mean, look, what's happening? I don't know. I don't like, and like from the United States perspective, it's like, okay, all right, well, there is a level of arrogance and superiority that all Americans carry because the America number one, USA number one, even though we're not number one in anything except for military spending. Right. So it's like, okay, but there's a level of superiority there. So you kind of look at it and you think, all right, well, if the United States is doing this, what has happened? You're just like sort of looking around. You're like, wait a second, what's going on? Because America is not the serious country anymore.
It's
They're not
not.
the leaders. There's no leadership. No one's looking at America and saying we need to follow their example, especially not through this. I don't
I think
know. How are we going to remember this? I don't know if you teach history, but like,
I don't, but I'll say this. I think it, before all this happened, I would say that the one thing that for anybody, well, in Europe anyway, that would stand out to them as maybe something massive happening in their life was probably 9/11. And I was only like, I was 10. And I remember, like, I remember the whole thing. It was such a big deal here. Like, people, like, this might sound pathetic or funny, but a lot of older people here, like, religious people thought the world was ending. Like, when that happened, they thought the whole thing was gone.
right?
Which that probably sounds funny saying that now, but like, because they were just freaked out because they'd never seen it like it before. But that's what it was. But now this is affecting everybody. Yeah, and it's crazy. On your point on America, yeah, I think you've got two sets of people in Ireland anyway. You've got the people like the older people that will look at Trump and think this guy's a legend. Seriously,
Yeah.
like I'll be honest. My parents think he's funny. My parents think, like, because they don't sit on Twitter and they don't see obviously what goes on
Right.
the whole
I
thing.
laugh every time I look at the president. I'm not joking. Like, really, I see him and he just kind of like waddles out there, just like this blank look on his face, and just kind of like looks around indeterminately, and then starts like waving his. It's comical. Like he does this. This is what clown puppets do.
Boris Johnson does that, but that's that again. That's a whole. I'll just tell you this, TJ, because I know gambling is now illegal in Colorado. However, I'm going to say this now. Trump is odds on to win the election. He will, like, as
He
far as
will
the
win.
bookies are concerned.
Yes.
Oh yeah, like it's crazy, like, to think that. But I remember I drove out to my parents' house a few weeks ago, and I had said to them obviously about the bleach comments, and my brother was laughing, like we were just laughing, like this is mental, like it was actually nuts. And my mum was like, no, like she said, I hope she's not watching this. She said, I don't know who the woman's name is, but the woman that was sitting, like the medical expert, she was all, no, that woman there is a lot more evil than Trump. And I was like, are you actually defending somebody that says, like, drink bleach and like disinfectant to try and me and my
Tell
wife
somebody to
sat in
drink bleach.
silence
Right.
watching that in the news. Like, you have to see the BBC News reporting that there was literal, like, disbelief, and I was like, what the fuck? I think, though, in Ireland at least, now, I know you might have a different opinion on this, but I completely agree with what you're saying. Even whenever George Bush Jr. came in, there was still maybe a viewpoint in America where this guy can get things done. And I know a lot of people won't agree with that in the state, and I understand that completely. But nowadays, if you compare him to Trump, like, and even obviously compare Obama, it's massive difference. But Obama's like a legend in Ireland because obviously his like great 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 grandfather was from here. I don't know what's going on there, but did you see the video when he landed down in Ireland and had a pint? Or
I didn't see that. I didn't see that. But I would love the idea of there being an apostrophe between the O and the B.
Barry Obama, yeah. No, there's a small town or well village called Monegal, and he landed down in like I don't know 2012, 2013. He literally was half cut. He had maybe 4 or 5 pints, and there's so many pictures, man. Guy's like a legend in comparison to obviously to Donald, who has just landed up. And I don't know, like I mean, my great uncle has met Joe Biden, and this is a guy that he has a lot of time for him. So it's a weird. It's just it's a weird situation. I've got family that live in the States and stuff, so they're like far out relations. So it's just completely fucked up. I put money on Donald Trump in 2016 at 30 to 1 at 2 o'clock in the morning.
You
And
want a lot of
yeah,
money.
yeah.
Yeah.
So don't like him, like, but put the
You're
money on
right.
it.
I mean, the numbers don't lie. I mean, that's the thing about probability is that it's absolute. There's no way out of it. So you play the numbers, you're going to win most of the time.
What do you think of the whole? I know we're changing tracks here, but what do you think of the whole sports betting in Colorado thing?
Oh, I love it. I think it's been well overdue. So yeah, I mean,
Oh.
the sport they need to make gambling legal everywhere. They need to make pot legal everywhere. Colorado, state that leads the way. They really do because Colorado is a purple state, which is why I love it here so much. Because in places that I love, like California is great. I love California. No, nothing against California, but it's not a purple state. You don't get as quite a wide array of viewpoints. I think in communities like that. And then here, I think you do. I think you get quite a diversity of opinion on politically, on the political spectrum. And so what I think has ended up resulting in that is that you get a lot of people in tech who move to Colorado, and you get a lot of people who end up getting scattered views on things. I would scatter plot my political affiliations. I definitely have some liberal, progressive leanings for sure. I definitely I would much rather be a problem solver than somebody who is you know, um, rule of the individual. I don't think that we need to do that, but I definitely think that there's some places where the Democrats screw up too, and I think especially when it comes to the free speech stuff. I don't know how they got that wrong. I don't know how they got PC. Like that's what hurt me the most about the last 6 years of my own liberalism is like I think I'm on the wrong team. Like I had this really weird like why are you guys getting so pissed off at people's exercising their opinions on things? You should not be the alphabet people. You're not the ones who should oppress what people think or feel or say. That's what the religious right has been known for throughout my life. And so like that was the very first issue. The only issue for me as like a kid that I ever had was like, I want to be able to say what I want to say. And then, and now it's like, that's really shifted a lot. So I don't know how to feel about that anymore. And it's just, I just never expected that. But it turns out that like socialism kind of lends itself towards that in history, which I was not really fully aware of because I did not have you as a teacher, Michael.
You're probably lucky you didn't have me as a teacher, man. To be honest, it's I'm very much like log on. Yeah, I'm the guy that was sitting on Google Classroom all year, ready for this. Ready for this moment. Right, everybody log on. Bye. Um, yeah, like over here, man. I'm jealous because over here, especially where I am, there is no politics. Like it's whatever side of the bridge you're on, and
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, you just vote for them, and it's shocking. Like now you think about it, it's like that is actually crazy, but that's the way it's
Very
worked
tribal. I
for.
mean, that's quite literally physically tribal.
Yeah, it's ridiculous to be honest, and it's never going to change unless obviously, like I mean, even I remember living in England and voting for a party that wasn't based on my like religious beliefs and all. It was like, oh my god, this is weird. Like, this is
Yeah.
like, I actually have to have an opinion on this now. It's complete nuts. Like, it is actually ridiculous. But I guess it's good crack, and it goes back to what you're saying a minute ago about how are you going to explain this in 50 years? Like, I actually can't wait to be able to explain 2020 to like grandkids
Yeah.
in 2050 and be like, here, like, look, it was a bit of a crazy, fucked up year, but
Right.
it was grand. And, I don't know, man. It just seems like I was saying to my friends yesterday, the last time I seen him properly, I was over at his house for the Super Bowl. And that's 3 months ago now. That's actually insane, to be honest. It's hard to believe that we're sitting in a situation where I don't know. It's just completely messed up. But at least gambling's legal in Colorado now. Do you know? Like, do you know? Because I'd be really interested in knowing this. Like, do you guys get like taxed on winnings and stuff, or?
I don't know. I think you do. I think you do get taxed on your winnings.
Okay.
Otherwise, they wouldn't have legalized it.
We don't here. It's just all like
Really?
the thing is. This is what I had. I think it's not very. It should obviously be legal, but it's not that well controlled over here. To be honest, I think
Does it need to
a
be?
lot.
I mean, and here's the question: the reason why. Like, why does it need to be regulated? That's the question. Is it because of crime? People are going to get the shit kicked out of them if they don't pay up. What's the deal?
I mean, I just think it should be legal, regardless. I think if people want to bet on something, just bet on it. I don't care.
Yeah.
I guess that's a very good point. Obviously, yeah, people are going to find a way to bet on something anyway, so it's just going to be whether it's legal or not. I think over here it's not very well regulated because you've got people that are hooked on it, and it's bad. Now,
Yeah.
the problem is soccer over here is literally in the lower leagues, and there's 92 professional teams in England, and I would say 70 of those are 30 or 40% funded by bookmakers or betting companies, which might sound like a big deal, but if they all pulled out, like, it's nuts. But man, look, every advert or every commercial on TV here before a sporting event is just that. I think sometimes it's too much. I think it's cool to see it happen and see what happens in America because I don't know. I think it's a weird. I just hope it's done right. Basically, I think if people are going to be hooked on it, they have to be supported. You've got people over here taking their own lives and stuff because of it. And I'm not trying to bring it down to a level where it's like, oh, you have to be in control of it. But it's very. I mean, ask Colin. I think it's a little bit too far here, to be honest. And you can literally you could take 100 grand tomorrow morning and you could put it on a horse in 2 minutes in Abu Dhabi, or you could bet on under 14 Moldovan girls football if you wanted to. And like, I'm laughing even saying that, but you could do it. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. But no, I'm excited to have a little flutter when I go to Colorado because man, Vegas is crazy. Like, it's nuts. So I'm definitely looking forward to that.
When are you coming back over?
I don't know. I think if Donald lets me in this year, I'll come over. Like, it's
If they open up the airports, because they are letting domestic flights go. So I'm guessing that it's only a matter of time before they open up international flights again to the countries that aren't China. Although, like I would say,
the
based
Wuhan
off
virus.
of what you're saying, there's more people dying in the UK than any other European country. So
I
maybe
mean,
it's one of the last countries to get opened back up. I
if
don't
I
know.
was gonna fly, like if I was gonna fly to Denver, I would probably go Dublin because of like it's cheaper with taxes and stuff. Dublin to London, and then
Yeah.
London straight on that BA flight. Um, the Taoiseach over here and also the Prime Minister has already indicated there's going to be no long haul flights for domestic passengers for at least the next 4 or 5 months. I would love to get over, but like, do I think I'll be over this year? Probably not. I think though eventually they'll come under a lot of pressure to open up again. Like the summer season is gone here. Like
Mhm.
I had a month in Spain booked and I've lost. I won't even say how much money I've lost. It's brutal, and I guess you can sort of imagine that over time that just builds up and builds up and builds up and builds up,
Right.
and we don't really have the same sort of airline, maybe a viewpoint that maybe people in America do. So, for example, the way like Frontier Airlines is like seen as like the dirt shit cheap option. Yeah.
Yeah.
For us, that's normal over here.
Hmm.
Apart from the fact, I will not pay for a bag, for example. But yeah, I'll pay £20 for a flight or €30. That's no problem.
Yeah.
I think eventually that they will come under pressure, because why should you stop somebody in like September or October to fly over to the States or fly over to Asia or Abu Dhabi? It's silly. And I guess the one good thing about Ireland is we're bang in the middle. We're like almost like a hub for everywhere. So just fly in, and I hope so. I mean, do I think the NFL season is even going to happen? No, I don't.
I think they're going to try to play games.
Do you think
I think
so?
they're going to try to play games, and I think it's going to be a bad idea, and some players are going to get COVID, and it's going to be a disaster. I'm pretty sure that there's going to be just a wave of really bad decisions by a lot of people. That's what that's what I think is going to happen.
I think money talks. I was as shocked as anybody to see the German football or soccer back at the weekend, but they said on TV on Saturday that they're getting tested every 3 days, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. Like
I was
they
going to
were
ask you,
all. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm kind of moving around here, but I was going to ask you about Christian Pulisic earlier, and I didn't get a chance to. What do you think of the American savior, the American Jesus, Christian?
Can I ask about your opinion on him first before I either praise you or offend you? Or?
I think he's the American Jesus. I think he's going to save American soccer. He is the Messiah. Christian Pulisic.
I think it's great that a country that has hundreds of millions of people can finally have a top-class soccer player like that, because they deserve to, especially the fans. No, I'm being serious. I think like he moved way too early. I wish him the very best. I think he will do very well. I think he will be a very good soccer player. I think he's seen the money at Chelsea and just took it and ran, to be honest, or seen the opportunity. And then, like, do you watch it? Do you watch like the Chelsea games all season and stuff? Or?
I have not been able to. No, but I will say I have seen that. I think he was like the youngest Chelsea player ever to score 2 goals in a game. I would just like Borussia Dortmund. So I was pretty excited about his ascension. And now you're raining on my parade.
No, I'm not. I am going to pull this back. Don't worry. This time last year, it was around this time, like, okay, give or take, it was maybe like March, but it was announced he was going to Chelsea, and I thought, shit, here we go. The Yanks are finally taking over, man. Here we go. Because for us, the best World Cup for us, probably the best crack, was in the US in the 90s. So it's like, yeah, bring the Yanks over, it's good crack. But then Chelsea changed their head coach in the summer, and it's obvious that the head coach doesn't rate him. Mm-hmm. He doesn't think he's that good. I think it's going to be very hard for him to succeed at Chelsea. I think, like, how old is he? Like 24, 25?
I think he's 22 now.
Oh, okay. Oh, shit, right, okay.
Yeah.
Well, then he's really young. Like, he's really young. But, like, I mean, give it a couple of years. I could see him moving back to the Bundesliga. And maybe,
it's not a bad league. That's not a bad league to be in.
No, it's not. And there's guys that have went somewhere, went back, and then got even better and went somewhere else. Do I think he'll be anywhere near as good as like the gods of the game, like Messi? We're not. No, I don't. Like, I'm not trying to offend anybody by saying that. Do I think he could be like the next level or very close to that level below? Yeah, of course he could. I think it's great to see the US like do well in terms of players, because the games that the US are in the World Cup are good crack. It's good to watch, good football as well. And I would say now, obviously, over the next 10 to 20 years, that they're going to get a lot better. But I said this to a guy recently, and he got very annoyed. They are way off. Like, it'll take the MLS playing 30 or 40 more years for them to be a serious, and I mean that in a respectful way, to be a serious challenge, because like the MLS to us is like, you know, like your granddad or your grandma in like an old folks home, and you're going to visit them. Like, I like Atlanta United. I like what they've done. I think that's awesome. But you have to then replicate that. And where are they going to find the money, like, for the next 8 months for all these games that have been cancelled in the MLS? It's just, see, I'm going into 10 different conversations here.
No, it's good. No, what I was going to say is that I think you're right. I think Atlanta and Seattle on the coasts, because they have the populations there, have been able to build huge, like very impressive European-looking crowds at games. And those two cultures are really, really good. And Portland has fed off of that.
Portland, yeah.
The little brother to Seattle. And then in the middle of the country, you've got Sporting Kansas City. And while they're little, I would put that soccer culture around that team up against any other MLS, up against Atlanta and Seattle. I would say that those, because they've sold out, I want to say 7 years straight. You know, they've kept their stadium smaller. It's 20,000 instead of 60,000, but they sell out every game. There's not a single empty seat in that stadium. And I remember going and covering that team, and Rob Heineman, who's the owner there, you know, the steps that he made to turn them from the KC Wiz, which were pathetic and kind of an embarrassment in the city, because it was like this D&D sports culture. It's like they don't mix, you know. You got people dressing up as wizards in the stands, and it was weird. And they were at Arrowhead, and it looked like no one was at the game because there's 80,000 seats. And so Heineman was like, we need our own stadium. It needs to be smaller, and it needs to have the ability to expand, but we need to keep it smaller as long as possible because we want it to be a hard ticket to get. And then I think they looked at a lot of clubs in the lower leagues. I think they looked at the Irish leagues. I think they looked at the champion leagues at the lower level of Premier League, you know, the lower leagues in England. And I think they figured, like, we need to build something the way that these people have. But you're in terms of the talent, the only way that your timeline gets shortened is if there is a void created by the collapse of another league.
Oh, absolutely.
If the NHL goes belly up, if Major League Baseball all of a sudden has a big players strike and they're not going to pay players and they try to put substitute players in there and it kills the sport, and then whatever happens, I don't think baseball is going to go away, but I definitely think over the course of the next 50 years, soccer will replace baseball and probably also hockey. And I think it'll be up on the same level with the NBA and the NFL in terms of the picture of the league. And then the money follows if there's television interest. And that only comes with talent and winning. And
I would
they're
say
still way behind Europe.
Yeah, I would say two things in regards to, I agree with what you're saying completely. I think another thing as well has to be relegation. I know maybe this isn't an American thing, but for people watching outside of the States, I'm like, so you could lose every game and lose 20-0 every game and you're not relegated. It's like,
where are they going to get relegated to?
Yeah,
the problem.
So take the lower leagues, make it into MLS 1, 2, 3, 4, maximum 10 teams a division. I don't care. Like, if you're playing this Western Eastern thing, I know it has to work for the size of the country, but to somebody like my dad who's watched soccer all his life, he's not going to sit down and be like, oh my God, I wonder who Cincinnati's playing this. Like, right. It's hard, but I think
they need new fans. They don't need the old fans. I don't think that they need people they need to figure out how to make converts out of people. And you can either do that with a Messiah like Christian Pulisic, who's going to save U.S. soccer.
Well,
he come over here and play.
He is going to peak for the World Cup in 2026, which I am really excited for because, I mean, there's no way in hell Ireland's getting to that World Cup, but if they do, I am going to use Denver as a base because they'll definitely get a few games. 100% Denver will get a few World Cup games, but I actually think that World Cup is coming maybe 4 to 8 years too early for the US team. I mean, it's obviously going to be it'll be an explosion for young players in the States, which is fantastic. But yeah, that's definitely going to be the summer where I maybe jump ship and sail around the States in a camper van. I don't know how I'm going to do it yet, but I was buzzing when it was announced that the US was getting it, like absolutely buzzing. And there's talk here that England and Ireland are going to maybe joint host the one 4 years later. So Jesus, like that's going to be unreal. But I guess it'll be interesting to see how it grows. And then I guess on the flip side over here, I mean like the NFL is growing over here, but like do I want Jacksonville in London? Do I? Like, I would rather, like, literally,
They will be. They will be soon. And I think Dublin is going to get the next one.
like, what, a franchise?
Yeah, I do. I think they will. They love playing over there. They play NFL games in that stadium, the Celtic Stadium, don't they?
Yes, there was a game. Well, I think I'm nearly certain it's been cancelled now, but
And Notre Dame plays there too.
Notre Dame against Navy was supposed to be on the 30th of August. I was planning to piss up, man, down there because I was going to meet Colin down there. There's a few boys who were going to fly over. And Ryan Harris from Altitude, I was going to try and get him for a few scoops, get Vic Lombardi from Notre Dame, but
Yeah.
he was too scared to fly over. So, but next year is obviously, I guess, for more Coloradans. Nebraska is playing over here next year. So we're going to go in like bus stops and see. Yeah, I think there shouldn't be 4 games. I think 4 games in London is, to be honest with you. I actually think it's a slap on the faces of American fans, because if there was one game in the Premier League in America, whether it would be Burnley against Brighton or something that nobody would watch, I'd be pissed off. I'd be really like, and there would be uproar, because I remember 4 or 5 years ago they were talking about an extra game in the Premier League to be played anywhere in the world, and
Yeah.
it was voted down immediately. It wasn't going to happen.
They play the exhibition games. They'll play the exhibition games at
Yeah,
Cowboy Stadium and Chicago, and they'll play at Soldier Field, and those are fine. But you're right. If you took a Premier League game, if you took Manchester United versus Liverpool
oh
out of Old
Jesus,
Trafford and you put it in Yankee Stadium, people would riot in
there
Manchester.
would literally be a war. There would literally be a war, and that goes into. I want to keep sitting. I want to stay on this topic, but really quickly, if they continue with the Premier League now on empty crowds, if Liverpool wins a league in a socially very deprived city for the first time in 30 years, do you really think that up to 1 million people are going to go crazy in the streets on lockdown?
Yeah, of course they are. They're going
It's
to
going to be
throw a
mayhem.
party. Yeah, and
It's going to be a bad day.
there's going to be a lot of COVID babies. Be a lot of COVID babies.
Call them COVID. Yeah, man. Look, it's one of those things. Obviously, yeah, the Broncos. The 1 year the Broncos were coming here, there's a global pandemic. I don't want the Jags. I would rather shit in my hands and clap than have the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think it's embarrassing. I think.
Do they
I think
rename them? Because Jags is because of the Air Force in Jacksonville. You know.
I have a Jaguar car, so I think it would stay. Like, Jaguar is quite a sort of a
Right.
English, but
I
have you ever been?
started calling them 2 years ago. I started calling them the Jacksonville Jaguars, just because they're
Jaguars.
eventually that's what they're going to be, the Jaguars.
Jaguars. Oh my god. What have you been to a game in London?
I have not. I have never been to London. I would love
Oh
to go
shit.
to
Okay.
England. I would love to, because that's my heritage. My mother's maiden name is White, Wight, like the Isle of Wight. And
Oh, okay.
yeah, they raised me to understand the importance of Celtic culture and English culture, and I learned about the Sussexes and the Wessexes and all of that great stuff. But I've never been there. My grandmother and grandfather got to go to the Isle of Wight for their 40th wedding anniversary, and they saw Stonehenge and all that stuff. And my grandmother read Diana Gabaldon books in the hot tub, and some little English priory.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I've learned something now as well, like in that sense. Um, I mean, it would obviously be great to go to a game in London. Like, you
I
would
think
hate it.
Wembley
You
seems
would
like
hate it. You would
I,
hate it.
I would hate Wembley.
Oh no, you would love Wembley, but you would hate the London game. Like, I'm sitting here in like a Broncos shirt, and next to me there's a
Oh,
guy in like a cowboy shirt. The next one down's wearing a Giants jersey. It's just, I mean, as somebody that watches it every week, I think it's almost a slap in the face.
it's a
I was sitting,
decentralized crowd. You don't get unified. There's no, like, the fan
yeah.
bases are kind of there, but it's all 32 of them, not one versus the other.
Ironically, the game in November I was at was the Jags, the Texans, and the Jags. There were so many Texans fans there, and this is what I mean. Like, if the Jaguars or Jaguars are the home team, like there was a lot of Texans fans there, and I always looked at the Texans like this is a joke. Like the Texans aren't Texas team. Like it's all about the Cowboys. I was floored. Like it was pretty cool to be honest. But I'll tell you one team that turned up. I don't know if it was fans, but they have got a large following in Europe. The Bengals. Don't ask. It's probably because of the 80s and stuff and the early 90s. But the
I was going to say the
Bengals,
helmet. People like the helmet.
they're like a neutral Jaguar sort of helmet, isn't it? Like the claws, with the stripes instead.
Yeah.
I was at the Redskins against the Bengals. I'm not sure if you remember the game ended in a tie.
Of course it did.
I think yes, it had to happen in England, but man, that was my first ever game. That was on. I was like, this is actually class. Like it was literally. There was so many Bengals fans. I can't like. There must have been 20 or 30,000 Bengals fans. I was like, this is
Crazy.
ridiculous. Like, the best. Like, okay, fair enough. The one last year at the stadium that the Broncos were supposed to play at Tottenham Stadium. The Bucks against I think it was the Panthers. Christian McCaffrey literally let roar on the whole of the Bucks.
Yep.
It was class because the atmosphere was like that stadium is perfect for an NFL game. They are never going to sell out 8 Jaguars games at Wembley. Like literally, you couldn't sell it to a blind man. Like it's not going to happen. Like Gardner Minshew looked like he wanted just to go home and never leave his house ever again. Like during that game, I was like, this is actually like I have spent 170 quid on the ticket here, and I'm just sitting like.
Well, do kids play football? I mean, do they play football? So like that's the problem. It's the same. It's soccer, but inverted. I mean, the United States' problem with soccer is that they don't have the youth programs. That's where you make geniuses. I mean, on the pitch, you find those kids.
They say that they're doing that, but it happens in London. It doesn't happen anywhere else in the UK because I've worked in Manchester. I've worked in a school in Manchester. I approached them. No, like. I get they're on a very low budget. I get that. Like the population of the UK and Ireland is probably the guts of 70 or 80 million. You probably have 100,000 people watching a game every weekend. That's the on cable TV. That's the reality of the situation.
In England.
In like England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, and the Republic.
So the ratings are that bad?
Yeah.
Wow.
The Super Bowl. 1 to 2 million, I would say.
Really?
The NFL in reality here is a lot more popular in countries like Germany. Okay, like seriously, I am almost offended that they haven't put a game over there. I know there's a shitload of Broncos fans in Germany. It's not even funny. I can't wait till it happens because there's literally like 5,000 fans, and it's going to be nuts. Even if it happens in London, but. Yeah, going back to what you said, like you've obviously got Art Rooney who owned the Steelers. Like it's a pity he's still not alive because like he would bring his team over even though I hate the Steelers. Just while we're talking, there's breaking news here.
Oh, really?
NFL making changes to Rooney rule. League will require at least 2 minority candidate interviews for head coach openings and 1 for a coordinator spot. There you go. There's breaking news. Live or
I applaud the sentiment behind things like that. I really do, because you got to fix inequality where inequality exists. But I said this earlier today on Twitter, and it wasn't really in reference to anything in particular, but I think it applies here. You can't force people to do the right thing. In fact, if you try, usually they fight you and end up doing the exact polar opposite of what the right thing you wanted them to do was. And I'm concerned because every time, some push or some enforcement is created like this, there's always backlash. And I don't know what that backlash is going to look like. I don't know what kind of public resentment it's going to create. But I definitely, I understand what they're trying to do, and I get it. I feel like it should have happened more actively than it has so far. But it's, you have to wait for the Patrick Mahomeses of the world to retire and then get into coaching. And because I guarantee you, the kids right now who are growing up watching that guy play quarterback, he's John Elway, except he's also half black. And I think that there's a lot of credence to that being a huge thing for kids who have not had any role models to look at that position who look like that. And so, kids are very visual. They see themselves in other people. Skin color is a part of that. So obviously you want to create good role models in the community, but that's what creates it. Eventually you're going to get more and more players who are in positions of authority and success and are viewed as the standard bearer for their teams. I think, one of the things that I've always been upset with personally about Broncos fans is that they give John Elway credit for everything that Terrell Davis did. And I love Terrell Davis, and I love John Elway too. This is not anything against John Elway. It's just that, like, Terrell Davis deserves so much more praise and accolade, but also too, I don't know how interested guys like that are in coaching because they've never been forced into positions of leadership. I think Von Miller might get into coaching. He seems like he's somebody who might get into that. Go coach at Texas A&M or something. He seems like a college football guy, but just his mentality, I think, is more college football oriented than pro football oriented. But there's a lot of guys like that. I think David Shaw is one of the best coaching candidates out there. The problem is that he's never leaving Stanford. He loves Stanford. He said he's loved Stanford for years. And everybody in the 49ers think every time that they start losing before this most recent, Super Bowl appearance, everybody was looking at like, that's where we got Bill Walsh, Stanford. Go get David Shaw. He's a genius. He's really, really good. And he's better than Jim Harbaugh, who people who they also got from Stanford, by the way. So, that's the candidates are out there. The problem is that think about it. We live in a day and age in which David Shaw, a black man, is the head football coach at Stanford University, one of the most prestigious elite level academic institutions in the world, period. And Richard Sherman's from there too. So and Richard Sherman is going to make a great football coach someday. And I think some of this is just impatience, really, if we're being completely honest, because the guys are out there. The candidates for these jobs exist. But you also have to understand that you're going to give a lot of bad coaches jobs. That's just a reality. Vance Joseph does not invalidate the abilities of African-American coaches everywhere. Like, it's, you got to get beyond thinking that every single time a black coach fails, it's a setback. That's not the reality, and it shouldn't be the reality. I don't think it is, though, for being completely honest.
I think as well, if I was in that position, I would want an application to be judged on my talents or my experience and not on the fact that, oh shit, there's a rule here, I'll get a job interview. It's not. I think it's great, and I hope that obviously at some point in the future that won't even have to be an issue. I think, look, they're doing more than what they're doing in soccer over here. There's a massive shortage in head coaches or managers in the Premier League and in Europe. That, like, there's barely any black managers, which is crazy because you've so many players for England, for example, that obviously go through the system, play for England, and it just doesn't happen. And I guess that goes back. There's just institutionalized racism in particularly in football in the UK.
No question. Yeah.
Like, Italy's ridiculous. Like, it happens once every few weeks. But yeah, hopefully it'll get to a point where they won't even need that rule. But yeah, it's interesting to have a bit of breaking news whenever I'm chatting to you, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great. That's awesome. I think that's we always like to break news on this, which people are going to watch on Tuesday. So
high future.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We're in the future. We know what your future is before you do. But yeah, I always feel like people are going to gristle when I say stuff like, I disagree with the rule. I understand. I agree with the sentiment, but I don't think that I look at those things and, like you were talking about, like, I think it does a disservice to the process. You want people who not only you believe are qualified, but they know you believe they're qualified.
Yeah.
I think that carries a tremendous amount of authority. Because like stand-up comedy is like this, you know, stand-up comedy, if you're funny, you're funny, man. You know, it is about butts in the seats. You know, if you can sell out places, it doesn't matter what color you are, it doesn't matter what gender you are, it doesn't matter what you talk about, honestly. I mean, some of the best comedians in the world are some of the dirtiest comedians and also some of the cleanest, right? You know, you've got people like Jim Gaffigan who are objectively hilarious, who sell out 30,000 seat stadiums and don't say a single curse word. And then you've got George Carlin who will tell you God is dead and, you know, the government made up a whole list about the shit that he says. So, you know, and he sold out the same stadiums. You know, and Dave Chappelle and Richard Pryor and, you know, and also too, there's shitty people who also do stand-up comedy, shockingly, you know, that's also a reality. Bill Cosby raped women in
Oh man.
droves. Like, you know, he just went just on a rampage through Hollywood in the 70s and we let it happen. You know, like it's really, really, sometimes you have to realize like humanity is a rich tapestry, people.
I think the last thing I'll say with that is, yeah, a little bit about Cosby there. Yeah, we've got Jimmy Savile over here. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. Bad, bad man. It all came out after he died, obviously. But
What did he do? All I
oh
know about
man,
is Gary Glitter, right? Gary Glitter was
oh shit, right. Well, his music, Gary Glitter, is banned in the UK.
Is it real? So what happened with the Joker? Did they have to put a different song in there?
They can play that, but if you want, I guess this is going back old school now. If you went into like a record store and was like, "Can I have the album?" Like, no, like they literally can't sell it. It's a bit like the Sex Pistols whenever they brought out "God Save the Queen." The Queen banned it immediately. Jimmy Savile was a guy that presented TV shows. Was very very famous comedian, stuff like that there as well. DJ as well. Died 2011. And within a year of him dying, it all came out that he was a serial predator, like raped countless amounts of boys and girls. Like he had a statue outside a children's hospital.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah, like it's actually
That's
unreal
terrible.
how it was never found. Like this happened. Like you sort of going back on what you said, like the 70s and 80s, like somebody could never do that now, obviously, in the world that we live in. But it's just like I would say, if anybody's watching this, read up on it because it's scary, man. There's stuff on like videos on YouTube, like him presenting. It's just like nuts.
By the way, speaking of which, so these serial predators, right? I don't know how to lump in child pedophilia with serial killing, but I've been watching these shows, these documentaries on Netflix. They have like tons of serial killer documentaries, and I think you know, people are really fascinated by what could drive a person to do that, you know, or whether or not it's 100% on them or not. I think that's another really big question because a lot of people, you hear something like that and you're like, you deserve to die, right? That's the
Yeah,
first. That's the first thought that enters my mind is like that person needs to die, you know. You know, some people, look, I know some people are totally 100% against the death penalty. I don't know. I feel like, you know, the universe is sprouting out all kinds of people all the time. You know, you got to trim the hedges of the scary shit. You know, so you know what I mean. Sometimes you look at these like Ted Bundy. It's
yeah.
probably best that we
The
ended.
guy, the guy from Colorado last year, who killed his
Oh,
wife.
the guy who killed his
That was
wife and his
and put
two
the children
baby
in the.
girls. Oh my gosh. That was one of the, I remember my wife and I were watching a Broncos game and that came on after because the news comes on after the game.
Yeah,
And we saw the report about that. And I was like, I just could not believe, I just couldn't believe it. Like, how do you do that? Because I don't necessarily, obviously he's a psychopath of some kind to do
yeah.
something like that. But it just seemed like, oh, I'm in a bad situation, got to murder my family. Seems like, how does somebody get to where there's that big of a disconnect between two
Oh man,
thoughts?
like I was actually sitting. Don't ask me why, but I think at the time we were putting video on our website from like Mile High Sports as well, CBS Denver. I was watching a Troy Rank video. Okay, I clicked on Channel 7 on YouTube, and that was the first thing that popped up. It was only a few hours old, and it was his interview, which is now famous, outside his house. And I called my wife into the kitchen. I goes, just watch that. And I looked. I goes, that guy's guilty as sin. Like he's done it. Like, and then woke up the next morning, and obviously, boom, and there'll be a movie about that in 20 years. It's
Sure.
crazy. But obviously, watching back, like the crazy thing, I think the guy next door had like the CCTV, and you can see the moment that he knew. I don't know how he kept up for so long. I guess going back to what you said about the death penalty and stuff, it's harder for us. Like, there's not really, until recently, there hasn't been a separation over here of like, especially in Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, a separation of both church and state over here. It's only really recently happened, even in the last 30 to 40 years. So it's, do I believe in it? No, probably based on my religion, but I can see damn well that people would believe in it. You know, for a start, would you rather pay your taxes for 40 years and put somebody through prison for 40 years? Like, there's
Yeah.
that whole argument for a start. Um, I couldn't see it ever happening over here. I know there's obviously only a few states now in the states that have it's still
Yeah. I
legalized,
mean, they still
but like
live for a long time. I mean, it's like, I think Ted Bundy was on death row for like 20 years before they finally, or 10 years before they killed him. It's like a decade. And I don't look, if I think there's a lot of things that we've learned from serial killers that if we had just killed them right off the bat, we wouldn't have learned, and we wouldn't have learned about the brain the way that we've learned. So,
yes, fair point. Yes,
there's different sides of the argument. I don't know. I'm just saying, if somebody holds that view that they're like, let's just get rid of the serial killers. Okay, all right. So okay, fine. Let's get rid of the serial killers. I'm okay with that. Uh, you know,
I am definitely gonna sit on Netflix now the rest of the night watching serial killer documentaries, man. Definitely.
Mindhunter. Go watch Mindhunter, and watch. So it's a really good show. It's a really
Mindhunter.
Mindhunter on Netflix. It's about the people who started the serial killer profile program at Quantico for the FBI, and they go and interview. What's his name? The co-ed killer. I remember the co-ed killer. What was his name? Edmund something. Ed Kemper. Ed Kemper.
Okay.
Um, Ed Kemper. Ed Kemper killed his own mother, cut her head off, had sex with it, ripped out her tonsils, and then put it in the garbage disposal. They sent him to an institution as a child. This is what he did as a teenage boy. He did this, and so he went into juvenile detention. This was back in the 70s, and he went through that. He gets out, and it turns out that this Ed Kemper, he's got an IQ of like 150. He's a really smart guy, and he goes on another murdering rampage throughout his 20s and 30s, and is so successful as a serial killer that he literally gets bored and turns himself in, and yeah, right. He's like, I'm a hunter. Like, I hunt people. Here are all my victims. And he just like goes out to a payphone and confesses to all of it. And so they put him in prison, obviously, but he doesn't get executed, or he's still alive. He's alive today. This guy, he was asked what he thought his own punishment should be. And he said, death by torture. You should kill me by torturing me to death. That's what you should do to me. And so it's like, okay, all right. Even the psychopaths themselves are like, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
I probably shouldn't be here. It's a really interesting. I mean, when you really start diving into it, the psyche of psychopaths is fascinating. John Ronson, who is across the pond, one of my favorite authors, he wrote a book called The Psychopath Test, which is exceptional. He wrote Men Who Stare at Goats and
Oh, that's great.
Fred, and he wrote he's written a lot of really cool books.
Yeah.
But Psychopath Test, you should check that out.
I very much have a bullshit 3-season rule with Netflix. It's like, if there's 2 or 3 seasons, I will invest my time in it. There's too many American shows I've watched where I've watched it and it's been cancelled like midway through the first season. I'm like, I'm wasting my time here. But no, I'll definitely check that out. I will say two things, recommendations for yourself, and if anybody else is watching this. Started the show this week called White Lies or White Lines on
Oh,
Netflix.
I have seen that. Yeah, I haven't seen the show, but I've seen the advertisements.
It's good. And as a boy that wanted to go to Ibiza in August, it's fitting that I get to at least see Ibiza on Netflix. Like I go on like a yearly retreat now to Ibiza for some reason. Secondly, I don't know if you've seen it, TJ, man. Dairy Girls on Netflix. You have it in the States. Dairy Girls.
Dairy Girls.
Dairy Girls, so like DERRY. It's like dairy and then girls, two separate words. It's about girls, four schoolgirls growing up in Northern Ireland in the Troubles in the 90s. What their experience was like in Derry. So Derry is a city that is 5 minutes from the border. So what it was like, but it's funny as well. And Bill Clinton came to Derry in 1996. But you can imagine at the time it was like a monumental event.
Yeah.
But it's a comedy. It's a good watch. It's on Netflix it's on Netflix in the US. I definitely recommend it. I told Brandon Perna to watch it and he hasn't watched it yet. So if you want to get ahead of the curve there, and maybe do that there. And finally, The Last Dance is on Netflix for us the day after. No commercials. So I blatantly, TJ, have not watched it in 3 weeks. So I am ready now.
You're going to plow through the entire Last Dance all in one sitting.
I've watched the first 4, okay? And I thought, you know what? I'm going to wait. I'm going to sit down this week and I'm just going to breeze through it because it's so good. So I thought, do I want to watch 2 at once? But yeah, we're very lucky. We seem to get a lot of stuff now. No commercials. Next day on Netflix. I got Better Call Saul the day after. Stuff like 6 a.m, like just boom.
Better Call Saul is the best show on television, in my opinion.
I haven't seen the finale. Don't spoil it.
I won't. But Lalo Salamanca is the best TV villain, I think.
Oh yeah.
In a long time. He is excellent. And I'm glad that the show did that too, that they brought somebody new in for us to obsess over because it was the same characters for a long time, other than Kim. Kim and Chuck kept us going, and then they killed Chuck. So
Chuck was the head of the game.
That's right. Yeah.
He was the guy now in the house with the tin and
Chuck.
I have to say though, when his house went up in flames, that was the part where I went, oh my god, this is gonna get good. And because I had watched the first season, and I don't know what happened. I was moving and stuff, and I really went off the ball in terms of watching stuff. I used to watch stuff to the day. And yeah, I binged it all and I was like, oh my god, this is top class. Like, holy shit. Like, so yeah, like it's great. Obviously no spoilers with The Last Dance, even though we all know what happens.
All I know, because I haven't watched the last 2 episodes, which have been culminating in my introduction to the NBA. It's these last 2 episodes are the Utah Jazz finals. So this is my childhood that I'm going to get to watch. I haven't watched them yet. What I did see on Twitter, apparently, there's a lot about Karl Malone that I did not know. There's a lot about Karl Malone's history on Twitter. I don't know if they go into it in the documentary or not, but apparently he's had relations with some fairly young, inappropriately young ladies in his life, and has had children by them, which is it's insane.
But like as a young, well, I guess still relatively young, maybe a sheltered Irish boy watching Dennis Rodman. Maybe I'll be honest, for the first time and seeing his background on that, because for a lot of us, you got to realize this whole US sports only really transcended over here in the last 15, 20 years. So for me, that was the first time I properly seen Dennis Rodman. I couldn't believe my eyes. He was on Celebrity Big Brother here back when it was huge, 15 years ago. And my dad loved him, but he had no clue who he was. Do you know what I mean in that sense? Mm-hmm. Oh man, like he obviously walks out with Madonna and stuff, and I'm like, Jesus Christ. And then obviously like the clothes and stuff. And I'm like, this
Yeah.
guy is like transcending sports.
You know what's funny is that I was thinking, it was like, who's the modern day Dennis Rodman? I think it's Pete Davidson, because I don't understand how Pete Davidson has dated some of the women he's dated. And Dennis Rodman had that going. He dated Madonna. He dated Carmen Electra. Carmen
Electra, yeah.
Yeah. Carmen Electra hid from Michael Jordan in Dennis Rodman's closet in his hotel room. It's amazing.
I think you're never going to see a documentary like that again. ESPN hit gold. Like, we're all in the house. We're doing nothing. Happy days. Like, I mean, Kobe Bryant's on it. Like, literally, they've hit gold. Like, God forbid me saying that. It's horrible what's happened, but it's probably his last interview. You know, they've hit gold. Yeah. And I remember when I seen it advertised like 6 months ago, I thought this is going to be great. And it's been good now in that sense. And I'm looking forward to watching it. Yeah, so if you're ever stuck, man, just Netflix, VPN, go to London and just go mad. I mean, we do it all the time, like Netflix, VPN, America. So if anybody's watching, I don't do that, but it's all good. You guys have a lot more stuff on Netflix than we do.
Oh man, I am inundated with content. I just it's too much. I have too much content. What I just like doing now, Michael, is just sitting alone by myself and with nothing. I used to wonder, like, why is my dad sitting in the dark alone? And now I understand. I understand just wanting to sit in the dark and alone and sip on some scotch and listen to some jazz or whatever it is you want to do. But like, you got to relax sometimes. You don't need to inundate yourself with content all the time.
Definitely. And then seeing the screen reports from this. Yeah. And seeing that you've been on your phone for 6 hours a day, and it's like,
right,
what have you been doing? Like, I wish I could do that. I can't do that. Like, at the minute, if I could sit down and just, I would love to. Yeah, I find it hard, man. It's one of those things. I don't know. Look, you get Fubo TV for me. Mm-hmm. You know, you use Fubo TV. I'll give you my ESPN Plus. I get all the local Denver channels for the NFL. It's a win-win for us, you know. It's all good.
Yeah, very good, very good. All right, how long have we been talking here? I guess it's been probably about an hour and a half now.
Yes. Sorry.
No, it's good. It's good. The first one of these I did was Stuart. I think we went 2 hours. So.
Oh Jesus! Right.
Yeah. No, he's a talker.
Stuart's a guy. Like, he's really, like, for a dub. For a guy from near Dublin, he's a very good guy. No, he's brilliant.
Well, I asked him. I found out he's like a playwright and an author, and I'm like, why are you slumming around with these Broncos Europe guys?
We've hit the big time now, man. So it's all good.
That's right. You guys hit the big time. So
just wait until the first game of preseason. Wow.
I think they're going to be pretty good. They're not going to be as good as the Chiefs, but they're going to be. Forget winning the division. The Broncos are not winning the division for, I don't know, the next decade.
Look, man, give me ESPN Saturday night, the 4th of January, wee wild card game. I'll take it against the Texans, who always get to the wild card now. So.
The last time I was on Broncos Europe, I didn't say this before the draft, and I want to say this.
Yes.
So here's what I think the perfect analogy for Vic Fangio is. The best case scenario you can hope for. The good comp, Rex Ryan with the Jets. And if people are be like, oh, well, that didn't end well. He went to 2 AFC championship games, people, with Mark Sanchez. And you've got a way better quarterback than Mark Sanchez.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't think that's that unrealistic to set that expectation. I think he can be Rex Ryan. And it's viable because that was in the same division as Brady. I mean, you're in the same situation now.
The thing that pisses me off is seeing the experts on TV stating that they think the Patriots are going to go 10-6. I mean, there's more chance of me getting up right now and joining the priesthood than there is of that happening this year. It's not going to happen. Like, Jesus, they haven't got a quarterback for a start. They haven't got a full team anymore.
I don't know, but Bill Belichick won 10 games with Matt Castle, so.
Oh yeah, fair. The thing I think is, and I know, okay, I tell you what, I will leave it at this conversation, okay? You've obviously worked in KC. yeah, and obviously the Chiefs fans, stuff like that. There, first of all, they're unbearable over here. And I will send you the link when it happens. They're getting very big over here. Did you see that the local station in Kansas City, a radio station, gave 2 tickets to 2 fans from England that flew to Miami, and there was a big
Problem.
yeah. Well, do you know what
It might have
that
been
meant?
my station. It might have been the station I worked for. It was either 610 or 810. Those are the only two stations.
Um, do you know what? Like, that obviously meant a lot to them, lads. And I'm not trying to like. I wouldn't like. It's incredible for them, and I was happy for them. I thought they were going to lose at that point, though. Like, eventually they're going to have to pay this guy. Eventually,
Maybe.
so maybe maybe just print more money and see. I don't know, man. They can't keep that up forever. No way. Like they can't. There's no way. Like you might disagree completely. They cannot keep that up for more than 5 years. I don't think.
Well,
You think more?
Here's my question. So, the league rules changed at the absolute perfect time for Patrick Mahomes. His receivers are, and I would say also too, the space that he can cover with the ball is unparalleled in the league right now. He can drop back 20 yards and get totally away from the sack. He can throw the ball from 20 yards behind the line of scrimmage, 50 yards downfield from the line of scrimmage regularly. So, I mean, until either something changes and they give the power back to the defense a little bit and they can play some hockey downfield with the receivers, that's going to be tough. That's going to be really tough. The only other way is to, I mean, you got to play physical. You got to impose your physical will and be willing to take the flags and go after that guy. And I mean, really just hit him. Hit him when you know you're going to get a flag.
Yeah.
Hit him on every play. Because you have to impose your physical will against people like that who are better than you. So, and make no mistake about it, he's better than you. Like Matt, look, Drew Lock's a great quarterback. I like Drew Lock at Missouri. I thought he was going to be a really good NFL quarterback. I was glad the Broncos got him, and I'm hopeful. I don't know, but I think he's a normal person. He's a human being, and I don't think Patrick Mahomes is. So, what are you going to do? I mean, like that's the reality of it. You can have the best plan in the world. I'm sure a lot of boxers who went in the ring with Mike Tyson had some really good plans and were really talented and had a lot of skill. But have you ever seen that movie, The Fighter? Have you ever seen that movie?
I haven't seen it, and now I feel horrible because I haven't seen it. Yeah, I know. Look, I'm still in a stage of my life, CJ, where I'm still very sheltered in a small evolving country. I will watch it at some point, but I'm very much catching up. What was I going to say? One thing that nobody's talking about, like nobody in Denver's talking about, Elway's contract's up at the end of next year. Miller will have to get an extension very close after that. There, he's all in. I think. I think he walks. If this goes balls up, I think he walks. I genuinely do. I don't think he wants to sit around at 60 years of age worrying about an NFL franchise. To be honest.
Yeah, I don't know. I would hope not. And I'm really curious who they would get to replace him, because I think that there have been times where John Elway has kind of held the franchise back. There have also been times where he's, helped the franchise tremendously. So I'm not trying to take that away from him, but time changes us all, Michael. And, eventually people get bored,
Yes.
and I kind of feel like John Elway he might be a little bored. And I'm not saying that he doesn't enjoy football and he doesn't enjoy being John Elway and he doesn't enjoy being a part of the Broncos and making these decisions. What I'm saying is that you need somebody who's going to work 18 hours a day, and I don't think he does, and I don't think he wants to. So just give him some sort of ambassador. Not even make him the king of Denver. Just make up a king of Broncos. That's what John Elway can be. And he didn't just
he can
go
be the
around.
CEO for us if he wants. I mean, I'm happy enough to bring him over here, and obviously, no. Look, I think. I mean, if you're 60 years of age, you're not going to want to sit there for. I don't mean to say this in the Bible, but like genuinely, realistically, the last 20 to 25 years of your life, and You want to enjoy that when you're like, you've been playing football since baseball as well since you were 17, 18. I think it's time. I think obviously there was a lot of talk whenever, because I was researching this before, when the Broncos played over here in 2010. There's really not a lot of media, like pictures and stuff. Like I'm trying to sort of get a collection of it to put on, well, just to steal for Instagram, to be honest. But there was an article then, and there was the rumours of him obviously coming into the team then. I think he's looking at 2020, and I think he'll walk, to be honest. In terms of who will take over, I mean, you or Perna could do a good job, I think. I would pay money. Like I would put money down for that one. I think he's sitting in Vegas. He's got a decent enough hand. He's going, fuck it, I'm all in. Genuinely, I think that is. I can't repeat that on my own show now because I know the team might be watching this, so I can't say that. But it's like, I think, yeah, he's like, yeah, fuck it, I'm all in. And if it works out, it works out. And if it doesn't, do you know what? And I probably wouldn't say this. You're saying time changed everybody. I probably wouldn't say this a couple of years ago, man. But I will not hold up against him if it doesn't work out. It's being given a go now. Like, I mean, and we'll see what happens. And sure, look, if I get over and get a few pints and enjoy a few games and we get a playoff game, I'll be happy enough.
Yes. I'm really looking forward to seeing the Broncos ruin at least 2 Chiefs seasons for the next 5 years. That's what I want. I want to see them just ruin the hopes and dreams of young, innocent children in Kansas City for at least a couple of seasons. That's what I want. I want to see tears. I want to see the children crying because Patrick Mahomes got beaten by the Broncos in the playoffs.
One last thing, man, before we cut off here. How did you feel when he was down in that game? I think it was Sunday Night Football. For that split second when he was down, and everybody thought, "Holy shit!" Because I will admit it. I was like, "Hallelujah, hallelujah," which says a lot about the player, the sort of player he is. To be fair, now, but obviously you don't wish that on somebody. But man, that was a scary couple of minutes, I'd say, for Chiefs fans last year.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, he was out of that game, and then the Broncos got shit canned.
Well, still, yeah.
They gave up. They were like, well, no Patrick Mahomes, I guess we can just do whatever we want to now. And then they didn't play football for the rest of 2.5 hours. Ridiculous.
Oh, man. Right, last thing. The Broncos are 45-1 to win the Super Bowl. And 10-1 to win the West. 10-1.
Well, they're not going to win the West. I don't know why. They're not. They're not going to win the West.
Sorry, the Raiders are 7-1. TJ.
Oh, that's stupid.
Yeah. Sorry, I should have said that. I think it's shameful, to be honest. It's almost as if the bookmakers over here haven't seen the draft, and I guess they haven't really been working recently with no sport. But I couldn't believe it. Look, you have to believe. You have to believe.
I think they're basically just saying Gruden's better than Fangio, and the Broncos have no defense. I think that's what they're saying. And you know what? They're not wrong about that. I just think that their perception of reality is off. I don't think that Fangio is worse than Gruden. I think that they're serviceable, and I definitely think that the Broncos have a better offense. And the question is whether or not that pass rush can make up for deficiencies in the secondary. I mean, if they can, then you're good. If they can't, you're fucked.
I will see you and the lads in Vegas on November the 15th.
All right.
Excellent.
All right. Michael, thank you very much. Is it McQuaid or McQuaid?
To be honest, man, it's anything. Like, I've been called Quid. I've been called McQueer. McQuaid. Yeah, that was a joke, by the way. Yeah, I've been called that. Like, it's funny, like, in that sense. It's McQuaid. But, man, Michael, Mike, Mick, Miko, Slicko, whatever you want. It's all good. We'll have to do this again sometime, man, definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
Before the next global pandemic, I promise.
All right. It's a date. All right. Thank you very much, Michael. I'll talk to you later. Everybody enjoy your Tuesday.